The longer we play Necromancy, the more things we're going to learn, and I've learned quite a few things over the last couple of days, and so here's another tips video compared to the last one to help you guys out on learning a few extra things as well. Let me know if there's anything in here that you didn't already know in the comments, and if you can think of any others that are worth sharing, let me know, and we can chuck them in a second video, or a third video in fact, as well. Let's go. So the very first tip in this video is something that I noticed with the skeleton conjure. Now, if you conjure your skeleton and then you use the command ability, if you then for some reason have to like remove your conjure, or if it dies in the fight and then you're like, but I've got 11 seconds and so I can re-conjure it, this doesn't actually have a cooldown. Even though it shows a cooldown, you can re-conjure the skeleton straight away. So the cooldown is purely just for the command ability, it seems, and if it does die in combat after you've just used command, you don't have to wait. I was waiting for that time before I resummoned it, but you don't need to. So if you use it just before it's died, say it's about to time out, use this, you can then resummon it straight away. So it's pretty good. Keep this guy up as well. He does a ton of damage. Use the command ability every chance you get. I've mentioned this in the last one, so we'll just put it here as well, but it does so much freaking damage. Keep on top of him. Okay, so for tip 2, there's a couple of things in here, but the main one is to make your life easier with doing the rotation I'm about to tell you about. In Living Death, you can cast your Death Skulls ability 3 times, because Living Death makes the ability a 12-second cooldown, and it also instantly resets it when it's ready. So I'm going to grab myself 100% Adrenaline, but to do this in the first place, you need to have a passive Ring of Vigor, you need to have Conservation of Energy, the relic from Archaeology, and you need to have the Kiln Cane. So it's a very high requirement. But for the people that do have this, you may have seen the way to do it is a little bit difficult. You have to be using your Living Death ability and your Adrenaline Potion on tick at the exact same time to get the Adrenaline to do this, because you need to have 6% Adrenaline. So you can use Living Death and an Adrenaline Renewal, and then you're going to use the Touch of Death. But to be able to do this, it has to be tick perfect. If you can't do it tick perfectly, you can replace it with a Super Adrenaline Potion instead, because this gives the Adrenaline immediately and not over time. So for those of you that are struggling with it, like Ratio for example, just use the Living Death ability, then use Touch of Death, drink an Adrenaline Potion, a super one, and then you're all good to go. You can do it on your second ability with no issues whatsoever. Obviously overall, you get a little bit less Adrenaline from using a Super Adrenaline than a Renewal, but being able to get the 3 Death Skulls in the rotation instead is much more important in DPS in terms of like that, or a tiny bit more Adrenaline. So if you are struggling with it, this is something you can do. Replace the Renewal with a Super Adrenaline Potion, and it makes it a lot easier for you, because then obviously it's down to 12-second cooldown again, and now we're out of it. We can use it again in 12 seconds. The Death Skulls is huge damage, so take advantage. The next tip that I have for you guys is about your conjure order. So before you go into a fight, you want to pre-conjure all of your different things before you go in, of course, so that they're ready and they don't cost Adrenaline. We already know that one. But the next thing is that it's worth conjuring these in a specific order of the zombie, then the ghost, and then the skeleton. And then when you pre-cast the specs before you start the fight, do the same thing again, do the ghost and then the skeleton, and obviously you can't do the zombie that just blows it up. The reason you want to do this is to have the skeleton last is a better way to increase your DPS, just because he does more DPS than the others do as well. So it's more valuable to have him out first. So you'll do the zombie, then you'll do the ghost, and then you'll do the skeleton. And then when you enter the fight, use your ghost again, then use your skeleton as late as you can, and that way the specs up for longer, the skeleton's alive for longer, and you just get a little bit more DPS out of it. It's not a big deal, it's not a huge amount of DPS of course, but seeing as it's literally just the order that you're conjuring them in anyway, it's worth knowing about. This next tip is just a way to give yourself a little bit of increased DPS just before starting the fight. So what you can do is, obviously, especially if you have the offhand tier 95 weapon, because you get yourself 5 souls, is run over to these dummies before you go into any boss fight and use Threads of Fate, and then use the Soul Sap ability. You'll get yourself 3 souls straight away. Now then when you go through whatever boss fight you're going through, you'll keep these 3 souls. But what you want to do is wait until you drop out of combat, and you'll see a little timer on here for these to expire. Use Anticipate. Now you no longer have a target, and you can conjure your stuff as well. I'll use an Adrenaline Pot to show you, without actually losing any Adrenaline, because your target is still gone, and you can do that. And as long as you keep yourself in combat, you won't see the souls, but you see on my buff bar that they are still here. So this is a graph that shows the percentage of people that are subbed to my channel. Over 55% of you guys are not currently subbed to the channel. If you're not, and you find yourself watching the videos quite often and you find something useful, please do sub. Let's get back to the video, shall we? Okay, so for our next tip in this video is going to be that you can use many different things with Threads of Fate, right? You can use Soul Sap to get souls, and then you can use the Volley of Souls to throw all of them together and AoE everything. And that does quite a good amount of damage, right? But one of the best things you can use if you don't need souls is to use the Threads of Fate followed by the tier 70, 80 or 90 weapon spec Death Grasp. I have it in my Essence of Finality right now, but the reason that this is so good is because even if you just have 2 stacks of Touch of Death, which you can get from like Living Death and a basic or something, this can deal so much freaking damage. We're going to use 4 on this one to give an example, but let's use the Threads of Fate, and then we're going to weapon spec, and then we're going to use the Soul Sap to get our souls. So on other actual monsters that's not dummies, for example, you're going to be hitting so damn much. That was 15k hits nearly on all of them on one weapon spec, and I'm not overloaded. I am not using my Ruination Curse. In fact, let's go quickly and test it out with that. We'll use the War's Altar to reset stuff, and we'll see how much we're hitting with that on as well. But this can do some insane damage and pretty much clear a room, because this can hit 30k's pretty regular. So with that, you can hit 30k on everything all at once. We're not having aura, it is what it is, and it just clear out a ton of stuff. So we're going to use the Threads of Fate, then we're going to use the weapon spec, and boom, 20k, 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 and that's without an aura as well. Huge damage, take advantage of it, and you can still use a second ability afterwards as long as you have the time to get more souls back too. Okay, so for number 6, we're already talking about weapon specs from number 5. If you plan on getting one of these for an Essence of Finality, just go ahead and buy yourself the tier 71 off of the Grand Exchange. Don't buy the tier 91, probably cost you a little bit more. Just buy the tier 71, because they both have the same spec. And of course, the way Essence of Finalities work is it doesn't matter what level the item is when you put it into the Essence of Finality. The special attack scales up to your main hand weapon that you have on at the time, and so there's no difference between the tier 70 weapon spec and the tier 90 weapon spec, except for probably the price. Finally for this video is, if you're someone who just wants to take PvM chill and just enjoy it without having to worry too much, or maybe you just want to AFK loads of stuff instead, right? Take advantage of the Necromancy tank armor and stack it with the Darkness ability, which you get at level 86. The amount of damage reduction you get from this, not only from the fact that the gear gives you a 10% damage reduction as well, but the effects of the actual armor set itself increases your dodge chance as well. This stacks with the Darkness spell, and so 30% of the hits that you take are going to be dodged. 30% of them. That's a hell of a lot. It's absolutely crazy. And then you get damage reduction on top of that because it's tank gear. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. Now, I haven't even mentioned one of the best parts yet, and that is on the tier 90 set, you're going to be getting yourself a bonus health boost of 4,500 health. 4,500 health boost. That's insane. That is absolutely crazy. On the tier 80 it's 4,000, tier 70 3,500, and that's such a big health boost. It's absolutely crazy. So if you are someone who wants to take advantage of this and use it in certain places, I will be making a video on it soon as well. This gear set is absolutely crazy. Anyway, I hope you all found this video useful. That is going to bring us to the end of this one. Remember, over 55% of you guys are not subbed. Maybe you think you are. Go ahead and click that button and check if you are in the first place. And notifications, make sure they're on as well for live streams and all that sort of good stuff. I'll be posting more Necromancy content, like a lot of Necromancy content, like a lot of content. I got so many video ideas I want to do, so get sub for that. But anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed and found this useful. If you can think of anything else that I've not mentioned, drop them in the comments, no matter how big or small they are. But otherwise, I will catch you all in the next one. See you later, guys.